Weekly close coming in hot, a little bit of hopium, a little bit of doomium, a lot of bit of doomium, and some derpium as well.
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, Krown's Quarantine Cave, and Krown's Fucked Up Back Surgery Cave. People of camera number 2 riding over here. Want to be wish you well following the new start of the week of new opportunities and new moon and doom type talking, which we're going to get very, very deep and dirty into relatively soon here. I do want to say a massive, massive thank you for the overwhelming amount of support for everyone wishing me well with my with the results of my surgery. It's been going better for sure. I feel like I am recovering. I do have another doctor's appointment tonight, so I will not be doing a Twitch stream as I do need to make sure that I get there. But I am starting to feel a lot better. So I do think that tomorrow probably going to be back on for the regular scheduled segments, especially on Twitch, which I'm really, really excited about, and probably even more so time because I don't have anything else to do. I can't go to the gym, and that's pretty much the only other thing that I do besides this. Anyways, other than that, I want to remember to say that because of the quarantine, because of all this coronavirus nonsense, well, not so nonsense, it is quite serious, I do think. We have decided to extend the sale on all the programs, as you can see on the top right hand side right there, to give people a little bit more of a chance, because, well, quite literally, people are going to be locked in their houses right now. So I do figure that this would be perhaps one of the better times. You actually are going to have the time to make the most out of these programs. Anyways, as always with those programs, make sure that you watch the videos accompanying them in the links below, because they're going to tell you exactly who they're made for, who they're not made for, and who's going to get the most value out of them. Usually the biggest idea with that is it's going to take time and effort to get the most value out of them. But also make sure, and I sincerely mean this, make sure to take advantage of all of the free content on YouTube, because there's plenty there. I mean, there's quite literally like 1,500 videos of more than probably 3,000 hours at this point, which, you know, for the majority of people is probably going to get them to where they want to be anyways. So you don't need to make that financial commitment and time commitment with these programs. Instead focus on that, and you know, and that's probably going to get most people where they want to be anyways. So with regards to that, let's get back onto the Krown trading application right here, which can be found at app.krowntrading.net and is free actually. And I do want to put the spotlight once again on the open interest, as we do see that open interest has gone up, price action gone down. And by the way, we did hit our yesterday's target right around 56.50-ish region for the very, very short term. We also got our bounce that we were looking for very, very short term. So now we got to go back in with the weekly in mind, with the open interest in mind, with all of the lower time frames in mind, and come up with the new plan, so to speak. So with that said, before we move on, I do want to just make sure that all the other metrics are in line. Yes, indeed, Bitcoin dominance is more or less steady here. We see the crypto fear and greed index incredibly low still, and open interest again from yesterday to today since we last spoke, rising up about 50 million it looks like. So let's get into the actual charts themselves right now, and let's talk about the weekly close. So the weekly close was neither moon nor doom. There was a couple of specific scenarios that we were looking for yesterday, of which the middle, like it's like the fucking Goldilocks scenario essentially, where we closed above the 200 symbol, good, but below the 200 exponential moving average, bad. And here's the thing. While I think that this does still keep open the topic of Bitcoin perhaps has bottomed, I do still think that the former bias of going down and at least swiping the lows in the low $5,000 range, upper $4,000 range is still very, very likely. I will curtail my words back there. But more importantly, I want to put the focus now on all these major moving averages, of which the green 55 and the green 55 and the yellow 21 exponential moving average right here are going to be the focus. And I'm speaking directly to the people in the TA program right now to keep an eye on that, as it's directly related to one of the strategies in the EMA modules. And what do we see right here? They are essentially kissing each other. They are in each other's mouth, and they are really, 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 really close, uncomfortably close. You know, like that part where you start dodging your head and things get very, very awkward. Well, that's where we are right now. And with last week's wick up to about $7,000, I do consider that a test of these major moving averages right here. And the rejection, or sorry, the price action that followed was a fucking rejection. Anyways, I mean, you know, here's the thing. When you pump up 63%, 64% in a single week, and then you only hold on to 31, about like a little bit less than half of those gains by the closure. Not the picture of health and fitness as it is. Let's go look at the history of these crosses in Bitcoin's past during consolidation phases, by the way, which we kind of see right in over here. And you see that to the upside right in over here during this consolidation phase, pretty damn nice, all the way from 8 that were about 7,500 to 14,000, so almost quite literally 2x off the off the signal right there, from that last low to next major high. Going back into 2018, after the culmination of about a year's long massive descending triangle being formed, we do see the cross happening right over here, which really kind of put the perhaps you could say that was like the needle, that straw the straw that broke the needle's camel's back. Whatever, you know what the fuck I'm trying to say. It's not good. It's not good. So we do see that, we do see that we get the bearish cross running over here, the lower period moving below the higher period during a phase of consolidation, and then boom, massive move down. Of course, this one from kind of last spike high to next major low was about 53.5% down, it looks like. This bullish cross running over here took us all the way from about 320 to 14,000 bucks. And then we had another similar kind of reaction running over here where Bitcoin was in a long-term downtrend on the weekly, and we get the bearish cross running over here from last spike high to next major low. We have about a 65% drop down right there. Of course, no cross before that because Bitcoin is more or less a younger, immature asset. And to be fair, does 2 times make a trend? No, but 3 times does. And we quite literally are looking at time number 3 right here. So there you go. Anyways, sorry, in a little bit more of a serious tone, I also do want to go back to the daily and follow up from yesterday's analysis on the hash ribbons, which, by the way, the hash ribbons have also give a capitulation sell signal as well. It looks like, although to be fair, it is not that aggressive right here, and because it hasn't really opened up and diverged away from each other. And let me make sure that you can see this. Yes, you can. It looks like we're recording as well, and the microphones work, so that's great. So to be fair, this is not like the nasty death sentence just yet, but well, now you can see they're kind of opening up and diverging away from each other to the downside. Now, what we really want to see is this next few days, like open up and diverge to the downside. That would essentially confirm that. Well, we should expect a similar result to what we've seen in the past, of which the last time that we saw a signal like this was coming in back from over here. Right when Bitcoin was trading around like 9,000 bucks, and then we had a nice spike low down about 30% to 63.5%. As you can see, if we go a little bit further back than that, and let me just make sure that this is steady. And sorry, there's one big thing with this as well. Big thing. This is on a I believe a 7-day delay. I believe it's on a 7-day delay. So that means that realistically, our last high was running over here at 10,000. So this would be a more aggressive way of doing it. This would be the more conservative way of doing it. The more conservative way would be about 39%. And to put in perspective, this would also confirm that our last high that we should be losing is actually a little bit above 6,400-ish region in our current stance, in case if you want to be a little bit more conservative as well with this estimate. The time before that we actually do have another capitulation sell signal was coming back on over here in basically the same area that we see in 2018 before the move from about 6,300, 6,500 down to 3,100, about a 50% move to the downside as well. Other than that, we do have another sell signal right in over here, and this one leading us down about 40% from top to bottom, and not good either. This one over here, a little bit of a one-off, to be fair, a little bit of a one-off, but even with that, did still kind of shuffle us back down about 11%. So not all that bad. I just want to show that there are cases of it being an outlier, of course. It's not 100% perfect, but before that, we do have this example right here. Another 68% down on a more aggressive estimate, and conservative estimate would say about 59% down as well. Doing some bad mental maths here. And then before that, we have a couple of examples back and over here in the early times of Bitcoin, although not as efficacious, although I wouldn't necessarily say that it probably has the best history there either, because it was just a little bit too immature of an asset. So those sorts of metrics should more or less be a little bit less trusted in that region. Anyways, more importantly, as you can see right now, we do have that same sort of sell signal going on, and I would expect that if we get another couple days of divergence between these two, we will see well, likely similar results to what we've seen before. And if we do take it from a more conservative estimate at our last little high right here, shaving off about 30% would put us back down around the lows on a daily little closing basis, which I actually would like. Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll make new lows, but I just want to show that on the more conservative estimate, it would suggest somewhere right around there. On a more aggressive estimate, where we take, where we shave off about 50%, let's see where that puts us back down around, and that would be actually right around here, 3,500 region, which these numbers are pretty consistent with what we looked at on the major moving averages on the weekly as well. If you remember just a few seconds ago, as well, typically when we've gotten that cross, anywhere between 30 to 50% in that same direction, especially to the downside, typically does beget continuation. So in this region right here, it is interesting to me that we do kind of meet up with the 2018 lows, which, by the way, is also going to be synonymous with the weekly 377 exponential moving average down around here, which I really like from a long-term perspective. And I'm sure that we probably have volume profile having some massive nodes in this region as well. In fact, we do. So I would be defensive against, I would be defensive against, lows not being in, but we'll come up with areas of opportunity and areas of action for that. Of course, this is never financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor, but I do think that it is important to delineate areas where I actually would be looking for that move to happen. For right now, because the weekly did close above the 200 simple, I would not just be blindly bearish down to those levels for like at least right now. I need to see something critical happen before that, and that critical thing happening before that would essentially be closing a daily below 4,200 would be the obvious one, but closing a daily below 45.50 probably does it as well. And we'll initiate that next target about $1,000 lower to 3,500, maybe even retest back down to 3,200-ish region. Anyways, let's talk about the lower term timeframes now where we are here, because, well, as always, there's two sides to the cone, no pun intended, and we need to come up with areas of inaction essentially where that would sort of revert itself, and I'd be looking and perhaps even look for the bottom to be in and look for Bitcoin to pop back up to $7,000. I think it's pretty unlikely here, but I think it is also important to talk about as well. Anyways, let me go to my BitMexican chart. Yeah, there we go. And to kind of cover up the short-term price action that we covered yesterday, let me put in some blue boxes as we do get ready for this. We did test up to our 6,400-ish region right here. Rejection happened, and we said after that, likely to come back down to about 5650-ish region, of which we got last night. It looks like not exactly. We got 5683, but close enough is close enough as far as I'm concerned. And we did get the next proverbial bounce that we looked for off that region on the short-term timeframes. So this bounce, I don't really have any specific target for. I think that it could pop all the way back up to 6,100, and it wouldn't do anything really of particular interest right here. And if we do even get back above 6,100 and close perhaps like a 2-hour dildo above there, then I would look for extension all the way up to 6,350 to 6,450 in this blue box territory right here. However, the problem with this price action is from looking for a reversal standpoint is that again in more short-term time frames, which I really think is not very likely right now. So this is complete hopium. If you are if you get dressed by your parents in the morning, or if you live in your fucking parents' house, or if you look like you get dressed by your parents, or any one of those people, and you also do cryptocurrency analysis, turn your ears away, because it's not going to be fucking good. What I'm about to say in a second here. Anyways, but as long as we are below this level right here, it's not. I am overall bearish. We could pop all the way back up to 6,350, 6,450-ish region, and I would just look at that as a bearish retest. It's not until Bitcoin starts closing at the very least 4-hour dildos really back above this high right here, 6,700, where I do think that the topic of the low being in is not just accurate but also relevant. So looking at it right now, does Bitcoin have another move back up here to kind of wash some over leveraged shorts out of the water? I don't have a strong opinion on that. If I'm looking at momentum oscillators, I think, or let me get rid of this guy right here. If I'm looking at momentum oscillators, I think probably not that likely, actually. I think probably not that likely. We are going to be hitting this trend line right here on the 4-hour. That's probably the closest thing that I can find to a little bit of short-term hopium. But looking at all of the momentum oscillators, especially RSI, saying that we probably get continuation here. Looking at 2-hour, we have nothing resembling divergence. No divergence plays to be made. Looking at hourly, I mean, Jesus Christ, we're getting really low right here. To me, it looks like the hourly is going to come back down and swipe 5,700 or 5,650-ish region, test the 200 simple, and pray that it holds up again. Because if it does not, we will get the death cross on the lower on the hourly, which will then have the downstream effect of leading on to the next higher time frames. So of course, the hourly doesn't mean all that much, but it does start to matter when it gets on to like a 2-hour, 3-hour 3-hour, 4-hour, which they're all death crossed anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So they'd just all be on the same side right there, and that'd probably be good enough to send us back down to the low side of the range. 5,100 is kind of where I'd be looking towards, anywhere in that region. But while we are here on the lower term time frames, I would be a little bit I would be a little bit defensive against like a quick move right now, just because I don't really think there's any humongous rush here. If Bitcoin even is going to put in a low in this region, like if we already have seen the lows in this region, which I think is probably unlikely, then it's probably still going to take like a long time for it to reconsolidate, reaccumulate, or not even reaccumulate, but just accumulate and then reverse. Anytime that we've seen a reversal on Bitcoin, it usually takes, and when we're talking about the macro here, which this is very much a part of the macro, this area right here takes about three months. This top right here takes about 3 months. This top right here took about 2 months, took another 3 months right over here for the next major breakdown. You get the idea. And then of course in 2014, 2015 took about a whole year actually. And similar results before that as well, though less, but still within, anywhere between about 3 months on the low end and a year on the higher end. So I just want to kind of say that, if you are looking for Bitcoin to V bottom out of here, I don't think that that's what's, even if Bitcoin did bottom, I don't think that that's what's going to happen. We do have the death cross obviously confirmed on the daily. I think that the 2-day is going to fall through on the next tick or two. We did just get another tick last night, and yes, it's damn close. It's damn close. They are kissing the green 55 and the purple 200 right here. We already kind of crossed below the 200 simple, which I don't really care too much about, but the 200 exponential average and the 55 exponential are very, very important, and exponentials will hold a significant amount more of weight. And here's the thing: as long as we are riding and using this red 10 simple as resistance, that's giving me the insight, or sorry, that's not just giving me the insight, that's giving the market the insight that the bots and algos are switching on their sell programs right here and are going to start to shave this price action down. And once this officially crosses, that will just get a 1 degree more intense, as you typically do see. And as long as we're below all major moving averages, even like the lowest period, like a 10 simple, and you can see that there's very obvious signs of distribution below it. As long as we are below it on a daily closing basis, then that is going to just intensify. Could it be that the next 2-day total closes us back above the 10 simple? Yeah, could happen. And at that point, I would be looking to extend this run back up to low 7,000s, but that's still well and far away right now. So I would start to really entertain the other side of this as another try into the $7,000 region. If Bitcoin can close a daily above, let's call it 6,300 on a more aggressive end, 6,400 on a more conservative end, it's always possible, right? It's always possible, but like if I'm giving my opinion on it, I don't think it's very likely. But I would change my opinion if that would happen. A daily close above 6,400. Okay, let's talk about continuation back up to the $7,000 region, and then cool things can happen, because the monthly is going to be closing relatively soon. I think we got another week left, and that would put it in a pretty damn good posturing. But a week is a goddamn eternity in cryptocurrency land, so not really relevant to focus on right now. The big focus is on though is these two guys about to confirm the death cross, probably on the next tick or two, which will happen tomorrow night, assuming that Bitcoin essentially remains below $6,300. As long as Bitcoin's below $6,300, these will inevitably cross, and it will very likely send us back down to the low 5,000s and probably even lower than that. Looking at 2-day Stokes right here, they are popping up. Price action not really falling through, and they are going to be testing around the edge of the bearish control zone relatively soon, which usually you're going to see some counter trend pressure there. More importantly, on the daily, anytime that we've seen a reversal in Bitcoin on the not just macro, but on like any sort of major reversal, it's always been accompanied by bullish divergence on the daily. And do we have any bullish divergence as it is right now? No, absolutely not. And I've gotten some very interesting comments about this. People saying like, but we are building divergence. Well, do you understand how divergence works? Divergence can only happen. I sound so fucking arrogant right now, so I apologize for this. But do you understand how divergence works? There has to be divergence between momentum oscillator and price action. That means that if you are going to have divergence between those, you need to make new fucking lows. Holy shit. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like sometimes I really wonder. Anyways, as it is right now, Do we have any divergence off the lows right now? No, absolutely not. There's nothing resembling divergence here at all whatsoever. Are we building divergence? Yes, absolutely we are. But in order to confirm divergence, in order to confirm bullish divergence, we will need to close below 48.50 on a daily total closing basis on, I'm using Stamp right now. And just to put this in perspective, you know, anytime that we've had a macro or even major low put in on Bitcoin, or even high for that matter, there always is bearish or bullish divergence accompanying it. So on this low right here, 1-2 drives on bullish divergence on this low right here before $3,000 rally, another 3 drives of bullish divergence, 1, 2, 3. This high right here, 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence. This low right here, 1, 2, 3 drives of bullish divergence. This high over here, major bearish divergence. Just actually 2 stabs of it, to be fair though, but definitely played out. And then going back to our last major low right over here in 2014, 2015, we see a couple drives of divergence on the actual low. A couple will be on these nice rallies over here, these 50% rallies, or actually 2x rallies. This low right here, of course, another 2 drives. This low over here, another couple drives. This low over here actually does work out. This one has some major bullish divergence, even though it was like at the very initial open for Bitcoin. Anyways, going back on over here, like I said, we do not have any bullish divergence to be found at all whatsoever. It will very likely be creating bullish divergence the next time that we make a new low below 4,800 or 4,850, whatever you want to cut it to. But do we know where that's going to exactly come in? No, absolutely not. And coming up with and looking at the weekly moving averages plus the hash ribbons plus a few other things that we'll show relatively soon, you know, those they can be quite distant from each other, it turns out. Anyways, daily Stokes are headed up here, and price action has been more or less coming back to the mean of the range, or median of the range, perhaps I should say. Just right back here in the middle is what I'm trying is really what I'm trying to say without getting tied up in my own words. Anyways, looking at this right here, I do think that we very likely do see some resistance right at the edge of the bearish control zone, which right now we actually are at. So we're going to be currently testing this region once again. So again, as long as Bitcoin is below 6,300 or 6,400 at the very most on a daily total closing basis, I am not looking at this as anything that could put in a reversal sooner rather than later, is I think how I want to represent my thoughts there. Let's go back down to the lower term timeframes. I haven't really mapped out my thoughts on this accurately just yet. But okay, so we spoke about the upside, right? I don't have any, nothing really changes from, like, here's the problem. We need to massively delineate between the lower term timeframes, the medium term timeframes, and the high and the macro timeframes. The low term timeframes, they ebb and they flow all fucking day, every day. Medium and higher term timeframes and macro timeframes, obviously to a lesser extent, don't change all that often. And to put this in perspective, the medium and higher timeframes do not change as long as we're below this area right here, even on like a 4-hour total closing basis, and preferably a daily closing basis. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to hit you. The lower term timeframes, they can switch around quite a bit. We did get the bounce off the area that we're looking at for right here. You know, do I think that we pop back up and test like 6,100? I don't have a strong opinion on that. We'll look at probabilities here in a second, but I don't have any opinions about that. That would change around the lower term timeframes though, and if we could close even a 2-hour dildo back above 6,100, I would look for extension back up to 63 to 6,400. I don't think that that's very likely to happen. Looking at momentum also, I think that we're going to spend some time going sideways here, retest 5650, and better hope that the retest holds. Otherwise, I do think that we're going to be coming down to the next, again, short-term support at 5450-ish region, and I don't think that it's anything other than that. I don't think that it's anything other than that at all, actually. In fact, I do think it would just be another kind of prelude of what we saw, or sorry, another excursion of what we saw right in over here, where you get a small bounce, a small anemic bounce, and then just gets sold into and rolls over, likely back down to this region right here. Here's where I actually do think that Bitcoin could, if it does have if it does have some sort of health in it, could perhaps put in a nice medium-term time frame rally once again. And what do you know? If we just play around with some patterns right here, which usually I don't fuck around with this too much, but it does seem to work. I like triangles the most on Bitcoin, and then I like, and then after that I like channels. We actually do have a rising channel right here now, don't we? And if we draw it properly, that would make this way easier. Hold on, let me. We shouldn't use Mexico for this. We should probably use a stamp, actually. Yeah, here we go. Or actually, let's pull up a fresh chart right here with, oh, it's not so fresh, is it? All right, well, whatever. It works anyways. We do have what appears to be a massive rising channel, which coming off of a downtrend would be a bear flag. And now's when you got to close your eyes. All the moons of the world, please tick off the video, baby. And for all the other people who are normal and don't want to and have already ticked off the video, well, here's a fun part. Anyways, okay, so. I do like this area right over here if Bitcoin does, especially if Bitcoin does start breaking back down below that 5650-ish level on like 2-hour dildo closures. Even if 4-hour obviously going to be better, higher time frames always going to be better. But I do feel the need to be a little bit more conservative here just because the ranges are tight. But I would look for a move down here to about 5,000 to 5,100-ish region, which I do think Bitcoin would have another short-term bounce off of, maybe pop all the way back up to like 5,800, maybe even test all the way back up to 6,000. But here's the problem. That would really be confirming this as a rising channel. We would have 1, 2, 3 tests on the top and 1, 2, 3 tests on the bottom, and that's usually good enough. And with a bear flag rising channel, we can make 2 measure moves. We can make the bear flag measure move, which I'll do a very conservative one right here just to show. Very, very conservative, by the way. And this is like really conservative. And that would be pointing this all the way down here. Oh, fuck. All the way down to about 3250-ish region, 3400-ish region. If we look at this as a bear flag, if we look at this as quite literally a bear flag, we could do another measure move. This one's where you got to start turning me off because it's not going to be good. And let's even give it like a better breakdown point just to make some excuses for it right here. And that would be pointing us all the way down actually to the mid to low 2000s, of which I have that area marked off for a very long time. So I do think that Bitcoin is likely to find its lows somewhere in these regions long term, as long as we are kind of following this bear flag as it is right now. And again, these are not perfectly done. Do not take that as the best way to do it. But for right now, it does get the job done, and I do think that it is relevant. So this $5,000 level is going to be absolutely critical for Bitcoin to hold. If Bitcoin does start to break it, especially on like a daily little closing basis, there will be bounces along the way. But I would be looking for price action to ultimately go below 4,000, back down to the 3,000s, and then we'll talk about it down around there. Remember that the first measure move down to the mid to low 3,000s is also in line with what we saw from the what's it called, the hash ribbons, from also the moving averages on the weekly, and also the 377 exponential moving average, also the volume profile, and also the measure moves based off these patterns right here. Now again, I want to be very, very clear in stating this. If Bitcoin starts closing dailies above 6,400, I would think that that's not what's going on here. If Bitcoin starts closing dailies above 6,700, it's obviously what's not going on here, and we will work our way back up to the mid to low 7,000s. Extremely likely if that were to happen, but that's just not where we are right now, unfortunately. So with all of these critical areas in mind, and I'm not going to focus on the low term timeframes right here. I'm only going to focus on the medium term timeframes. So we'll go back on over here and we'll get rid of all of the low time frame critical points. And we'll just focus on the medium-term time frame ones. And let me just get rid of these trend lines because they're not too trustworthy right now. 5650 is well, it is kind of medium. It is kind of fuck them. Yeah, we'll keep it right here, 5550. Because we do need something to cut it in the middle. And let's go look at probabilities with respect to this. So once again, we have 12 hours. I forgot to tell you the most important part of this fucking analysis. God damn it. Disregard everything in that I've said, my friends. Fuck! There's like actually a lot of people at home nowadays, so get ready for more of that, my friends, my fellow neighbors. Anyways, I do think that we will at some point test this trend line down around here, and this will be the next major low. This has gotten a lot of major lows actually ever since late February of this year, and then also our low in early March, and then our more recent low on the 13th of March. And if we were to come back down and retest it, not all that great, but probably just bounce. And now everyone has turned off this video, so it's just you and me now, baby. Just you and me, the true OGs of the cave, which is who I really want to be speaking to. Like, get everyone else the fuck out of here. So yeah, let's go back to the probabilities chart. And on a 12 hour, which I do think the 12 hours is, I keep on coming back to this. The 12 hours is the best one for this. We can now come up with probabilities for this, and we can even just eyeball this. Obviously, the probability is going to be on the downside. We are once again squeezing to the downside as momentum oscillators turn to the downside at the exact same fucking time. And if we come up with probabilities for the next sort of critical region, which from the we'll do the short term one, 55.50ish region. If Bitcoin does break down below that, which would have a 27.5% chance to happen today. Or sorry, not today, but in this next 3 hours and 39 minutes, I do believe that we will see that next level down to the mid to low, not mid to low, but low 5,000s, like 5,000 or 50.50 to 51.50ish region, very likely be tested sooner rather than later. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen like that at the snap of a whose fingers, but I do think that it would ultimately get there. Maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes a day, maybe it happens that second. I don't really care about that. Just going level by level here. By the same token, to the upside, what do we have? Again, I won't do the more we can do the more preliminary ranges. Actually, we'll do 6,100. Just for shits and giggles, I'm curious what it would say. I'd imagine it actually is within the realm of possibility here, but it's going to be less likely. Oh no, it's actually decent. 31% that we actually do trade back above 6,100. This is only 12 hour though, and volatility is expanding. So it's expanded and now in the phase of contracting, but it is more or less hot right now. So it should encompass those ranges. But as you can see, that's going to be rapidly declining, and in the next 3 hours and 38 minutes, I would imagine that's going to decline quite a bit. So we'll be able to say that. But technically right now, it's actually a little more likely that we do go back above that region. So could I be completely wrong on this? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'd love to be wrong on this. Going to a 4 hour. I'm curious what this one shows, because this is going to get essentially the next 12 hour deal to closure as well. What do you know? We are well below that that $6,100 region. In fact, the $6,000 region is showing the top side of the first deviation, so less than a 16% chance that we even close above there. And if we're looking at exactly 6,100 for the short-term timeframes, which is only relevant towards those short-term timeframes, about 6.25%, 634 to be exact, from this price target. And if we were to go down to the next level, 55.50, that would be somewhere around the second deviation, so a little bit less than 2.5% chance to happen in this next 4 hour deal to closure. So I do think that we're going to be ranging here on the very, 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 very low term timeframes. Don't think that we break either one of those on the low term timeframes. And then let's go look at the daily as well. The daily curling down quite aggressively here as well after too many signs of indecision on the daily. And what do you know? The bottom side of the first deviation is coming in right around 52.75. So it's obviously going to well encompass our breakdown breakdown target for the for the more preliminary areas for the downside. That would say that we have a little bit more than 30.5% chance to close below there on this daily, which would initiate that next move down into the lower 5,000s. Again, we will do the more preliminary range for the upside, but remember, this doesn't even change the medium-term timeframes. We'll do that one right after this. This would actually be a little bit less than 35% chance as it is right now, but curling down, I would say that's some hopium as well. Let's do also 64 on a daily deal closure. What's the probability that we actually do close above there today? A little bit less than 20%. So not all that bad right now, but and it is kind of one of those weird times where where my TA levels are not lining up perfectly with the expected moves chart with regards to historical volatility percentile. So very rarely does that actually happen. So what does that tell you? It tells you that perhaps we are changing, and perhaps I'm just drastically wrong on this, which, like I said, I'm more than open to being wrong on this. I want to be wrong in this because I actually would much rather Bitcoin just go up than down, because it's just easier to trade. But right now I have to call a spade, and I don't think that that's what's happening. I think that we put in a top here. If we come back up, it's probably gonna do the same thing. All right, what else do we want to look at? Stock market's another limit down open. That's great. That's really healthy. That's really good. What else do we have? We got 33 minutes into this video already. Okay, I think I spoke your head off about everything that I really want to speak about there. Death cross on the daily, gaining more and more divergence away from each other. Although I don't think that this is like this is not your picture perfect death cross, to be fair. Let's go look at the other majors, see how they're doing. Just to see maybe there's someone doing something completely different. Mr. Buterock closed below all major moving averages yesterday, confirmed the death cross the day before. I do think that we're going to be heading back down to 110 to 111 region down around here. So Buterock is biased to the downside. Litecoin, Mrs. Litecoin, what are you doing, you beautiful bitch? Same thing here, death cross, although happened much more prematurely compared to the other ones. Did close below all major moving averages right here as well. Something It feels to me. I mean, as long as it's below 38 and a quarter, 38 and a half, I'm overall bearish on it. If we did pop back above there, I'd look for a retest of the highs or the last highs coming in right around 41.50. I think that's less likely to happen, but fair enough. That would kind of revert my opinion on it. If we do break below, let's call it $34, especially on like a 4, I really want to see a 12-hour close below this region. Then I'd look for a retest of the lows on a closing basis. Do you want to go through all this bullshit? They're all the same. They're all the fucking same. Bunch of lazy altcoins. Get some fucking jobs. Let's go check out Link. Sometimes this one does something different. Link Death Cross. I consider this high right here a test of that Death Cross. This is probably gonna be a good one. Lower highs the whole way through. I think this is likely going to be moving lower, but let's make sure that we look at the full picture first, just in case. Okay, so that looks like shit. Well, if the weekly could put in a bottom here, that would be phenomenal because we would have massive hidden bullish divergence, and I'd look for a retest back up to $4.50. But what would we have to do that? Yeah, as long as this one's below, let's call it $2.50. I'm not the biggest fan of it. If it could close a daily back above $2.50 though, that would start to confirm this as a local low, and we would play out that hidden bullish divergence on the weekly. And by the way, Link actually does have regular bullish divergence on the daily down here on the lows. So if anything's going to do it, it's probably Link. But Link actually has been contra to the general market before, so you know what? I would reserve judgment for it. If anything's going to reverse, so probably this one. Although I don't know if it's strong enough to do what the rest of the market is not doing. Anyways, gold, what's gold looking like? Gold retesting the 200 simple once again. So far rejection, but a little bit too early to really call it, especially on a daily. Weekly was abysmal close last week. I do think that if this thing popped back up to like 1530, 1535, it'd probably be another sell. I am bearish on this thing as long as it's especially below on a wick basis, 1575, on a 4-hour delta closing basis, let's call it like 1550. As long as we're below there, still just following the trend of the downside. If the daily could close back above the 200 simple here as well at 1500 even, I would look for another move back up to test around 1535 region. But that remains to be seen. In this one as well is kind of at an interesting point. If it actually did confirm a major low here, or sorry, if it just confirmed a local low here, we would have major hidden bullish divergence, and I'd look for a move all the way back up to the $1,700 region. But I don't think that's what's happening. We did get a nice jewel sell signal right there as well. So fair enough. I don't really think that there's any any asset that's doing all that well right now, unfortunately. What else do we want to look at? I think that's about it. We can go check out CMEs really quickly as well. I want to keep this video a little bit on the shorter side because I'm starting to feel it myself. CMEs did confirm the death cross a few days ago. Our next test up to the 10 simple so far rejected, and I don't really see anything of particular interest here that would make me think that this thing is doing or is signaling anything different than what we see on spot price action. 4-hour Stokes got plenty of room to the downside here, and I'm matching that all the lower time frames below that are the same. 3-hour, 2-hour, and hourly is going to be floundering around, but as long as CMEs are below about 61, yeah, it's the same area essentially as well. 6100, I'm more or less looking for more downside. It can pop back up test there. That's completely fine. Don't have any major issues with that. But here, and sorry, I did forget to kind of cover up. Is cover up the word I'm looking for? No, I did forget to follow up is the word that I'm looking for. I'm just really struggling with my words today. The open interest reading on the daily right here. So while open interest did go up, price action's been going down. We see volume actually still relatively flat and also kind of down as well. So there's not actually anything obvious from there. It would still err on the side of bearishness, but we don't see volume increasing just yet. Volume is only going to increase, I'd imagine, if we get a fake out here to the downside and move back up above about 6,400, or if we break that proverbial rising channel to the downside, we should see a spike in volume as well, and that would be it. So right now is putting on positions resolution's time for a lot of the bigger accounts, and I believe that we won't see that spike until we see the next resolution of this range. So it's still biased to the downside, but there's not an obvious indication from that. The obvious indication was when Bitcoin price was rising up to 6,900ish region, and open interest was essentially flat to down, and volume was also down. That was an obvious sell. That's why we said that this was likely to get rejected and likely to move back down. Now there's not really the same sort of thing for that, but it would still err on the side of bearishness. And then in line with all of the rest of the analysis that we've been doing, I kind of already lean on that side anyway. So it's not enough on its own. So unfortunately, you can only do so much with, or at least I can only do so much with it. But fair enough. Anyways, for right now, I'll start to wrap up the lower term timeframes. Bitcoin's kind of just ranging here. I'll redo all of the lower term timeframes, even like the very, 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 very low. So we got 6,100 right here. We can make another liquid zone right here at 56.50 to 55, or no, this is only like a $50 range. So here's how I'd kind of be looking at it right now. I do think that Bitcoin's going to come back down and swipe 56.50. I don't have an opinion on if it breaks it or not this swipe. As you saw with the probability chart, it is realistically probable that we do. But I would look for an initial bounce off this area again, on the very, 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 very low. So, if you're looking at like a fucking daily, it's not going to show most likely. And then I look for that range to break and Bitcoin to head down into the lower 5,000s, probably finding its later footing somewhere down around like 5,100ish region, give or take $50, we'll call it. By the same token, if Bitcoin did move back above 6,100ish region, that doesn't change anything for the medium and higher timeframes for me, but does for the lower term timeframes. And I look for extension all the way up here towards 6,350 to 6,400ish region. That's where the medium timeframes can change. If Bitcoin starts closing 4-hour dildos above there, I would extremely likely look for a retest of about 6,700, and likely if we do happen to close a daily over 6,400 as well, we should see extension back up to $7,000. Not should, but likely would see extension back up to $7,000, and then we could perhaps bring back the conversation of have we seen the lows. But for right now, I think that this is unlikely. This looks like looks like redistribution to me, to put it bluntly. It looks like fucking redistribution to me. All jokes aside, I don't like what I see here. If I do want to be bullish on this, which I kind of do because it just makes my life easier, but I have to call a spade at the end of the day. And of course, at the end of the day, my opinion is irrelevant. It means nothing. It means fucking nothing. I just go level by level. That's how I trade myself, and take it as you will. And I hope that this was in some way helpful. A lot of people have been asking I'm a little bit off topic here, but a lot of people have been asking about my opinion on the whole coronavirus thing. I'm no scientist or anything like that. I don't have a good answer for that, but I do think that it would be relevant to say that this is not going to go away in just 2 weeks. If you look at China, if you look at Korea, if you look at all the countries that kind of got it first, they took 2 to 3, maybe even 4 months to start to get a little bit of a handle on it. And those are, China, especially an authoritarian regime, which they can do things that we will not do in America. Like they can quite literally just mandate it so that you have to stay in your house. In America, people probably still do a little bit of what they want, I suppose, even though I understand that most people are in what is it called, shelter in place or something like that. And sorry, if you want to turn off the video right now, please do. It's I'm just going to ramble for a second. But I'd imagine that gives them a little bit of an advantage in that situation with kind of curtailing the effects. So I'd imagine that in the Western world, we're probably not going to be able to have that, and so this probably not going to be going away anytime soon. I feel like we're kind of just being baby stepped into getting comfortable with staying at home and not having too much contact and social distancing and all that stuff. And perhaps it's for the best, perhaps it's not. I don't know the full picture on it, but I do want to say there is one thing that I strongly believe. There's one thing that I really, really strongly believe, and I hope that whoever needs to hear this message hears it. And that's if you are going to be stuck at home, you don't need to be the person who's watching the fucking news 24/7, because there are things that you can control and things that you cannot control, and the things that you can control are much more important to focus on than the things that you cannot control. We can't control that this virus, or at least on a personal level, we can't control that this virus is, going to stop today or tomorrow or the next day, but we can control how we use that time. And instead of just scaring yourself to fucking death with the news and media and shit like that and social media and all these things that don't really add all that much to our life except for, kind of negative emotions, I suppose. And sometimes positive as well. It's not all bad, but this could be a time. This could also be a little bit of a blessing in disguise. Now you're essentially forced to have some free time for yourself to focus on whatever you want to focus on. So you can get to an elite level at just about anything if you just have enough time to focus on it. And so, this perhaps for a lot of people could be a time to, have a new beginning, kind of recreate yourself in a way that you didn't really think that you had an opportunity before, but now you're kind of forced to do it. And what's the worst that happens? The worst that happens is that, you try something new and it doesn't work out, and then you go back to your old life. And, if that's it, so be it. At least you fucking tried. So yeah, man, a lot of people have asked about my thoughts on that. Again, I'm no scientist. I don't have any answers for coronavirus or anything like that. I'll let the fucking people who are experts in that realm speak about it. I just want to say that you do have an opportunity to you do still have some freedoms of yourself, and you always have freedom of your mind, and you can choose to use that in any way that you want, and hopefully that's hopefully that's for the better. In fact, I strongly believe it'll be for the better, because most people are fucking good. Most people are fucking good, man. Like, you read about some of these stories going on in the world right now with people helping people during these times of need, when it seems like the whole world has a common enemy, so we're all united. It's actually pretty fucking cool. So anyways, I'm gonna get off my high horse right now. I don't mean to ramble, and I don't mean to piss anyone off who didn't want to hear that. Again, I want to wish you well once again, and I'll be signing off now. I think Twitch will be back on for tomorrow, and until then, I want to I ran out of words, man. My brain's out of fucking brain power. Take care, and until next time.